in the shadows of the Holy Land, where ancient history collides with modern intrigue, a secret operation unfolded that tested the limits of alliance and betrayal. It was the early 1980s and the Cold War was raging. The CIA, America's premier intelligence agency, had embarked on a mission so sensitive, so risky that it could have shattered the delicate balance between the United States and one of its closest allies, Israel. This is the story of a covert operation that pushed the boundaries of espionage, where loyalties were questioned and the stakes were nothing less than the future of the Middle East. This is the story of a CIA operation in Israel, a mission that was meant to remain buried, but whose echoes still resonate today. By the early 1980s, Israel had become a cornerstone of U.S. strategy in the Middle East. Military strength, intelligence capabilities, and strategic location made it an invaluable ally in the Cold War. But beneath the surface of this partnership lay tensions. Israel's aggressive policies, particularly its pursuit of nuclear capabilities, had raised concerns in Washington. The CIA, tasked with monitoring global threats, had grown increasingly wary of Israel's ambitions. At the same time, the Middle East was a powder keg. The Iran-Iraq war was raging, Palestinian militant groups were launching attacks, and the Soviet Union was seeking to expand its influence in the region. The CIA saw an opportunity to gather critical intelligence, but doing so required operating on Israeli soil, a move that could be seen as a violation of sovereignty and a breach of trust. The operation, codenamed Vortex, was designed to monitor Israeli military and nuclear activities covertly. It involved recruiting agents, planting surveillance equipment, and gathering data that could reveal the extent of Israel's nuclear program. But the mission was fraught with risk. If discovered, it could trigger a diplomatic crisis, damage U.S. Israeli relations, and even lead to retaliation. The CIA's plan was audacious. They would recruit a network of operatives within Israel, including Israeli citizens and foreign nationals, to gather intelligence on military installations, research facilities, and government communications. The operation was led by a seasoned CIA officer, codenamed Orion, who had a reputation for handling high-stakes missions. One of the key recruits was a young Israeli engineer named David Cohen. Cohen, who worked at a defense contractor, had access to sensitive information about Israel's missile programs. The CIA approached him with a mix of appeals to patriotism and financial incentives. Cohen, struggling with personal debts, agreed to cooperate. He began providing documents, blueprints, and insider knowledge to his handlers. Another operative, a French diplomat named Claire Moreau, was tasked with infiltrating social circles in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Her mission was to gather information through casual conversations and observe any unusual activities. Moreau's cover as a cultural attaché allowed her to move freely without raising suspicion. But the operation was not without its challenges. Israeli intelligence, known as the Mossad, was one of the most formidable in the world. They were constantly on the lookout for foreign agents, and the CIA team had to operate with extreme caution. Every meeting, every piece of information exchanged was a calculated risk. As the operation progressed, the CIA began to gather valuable intelligence. They learned about Israel's progress in developing long-range missiles, its efforts to acquire nuclear materials, and its plans to strike at perceived threats in the region. But their success was short-lived. The Mossad, ever vigilant, had begun to suspect that something was amiss. In late 1982, a Mossad counterintelligence unit noticed unusual patterns in communications and movements around sensitive facilities. They launched an investigation codenamed Operation Sentinel to identify and neutralize any foreign agents operating in Israel. The CIA's network was under scrutiny, and the operatives knew their time was running out. David Cohen, feeling the pressure, began to show signs of nervousness. He missed meetings, provided incomplete information, and seemed on the verge of cracking. The CIA handlers tried to reassure him, but the damage was done. In December 1982, Cohen was arrested by the Mossad. Under intense interrogation, he confessed to his role in the CIA operation and provided details about his handlers and other operatives. Claire Moreau, unaware of Cohen's arrest, continued her activities. But the Mossad, now armed with Cohen's information, was closing in. In January 1983, Moreau was detained at Ben Gurion Airport as she attempted to leave the country. She was questioned for days but managed to maintain her cover, denying any involvement with the CIA. Eventually, she was expelled from Israel, but the operation had been compromised. The exposure of Operation Vortex sent shockwaves through the CIA and the U.S. government. Israel, furious at the breach of trust, demanded an explanation. Behind closed doors, diplomatic tensions soared. The Israelis accused the Americans of spying on their closest ally, while the U.S. argued that it was acting in its national interest to prevent a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. The fallout was immediate. Israel tightened its security protocols, making it even harder for foreign intelligence agencies to operate within its borders. The CIA, embarrassed and chastened, launched an internal investigation into how the operation had been compromised. Orion, the officer in charge, was reassigned, and the agency reevaluated its approach to sensitive missions. But the damage to U.S. Israeli relations was done. While the two countries maintained their strategic alliance, a lingering distrust remained. The incident served as a stark reminder of the complexities of espionage and the risks of operating in the shadow of a powerful ally. Operation Vortex was a mission that pushed the boundaries of espionage, revealing the fine line between alliance and betrayal. It was a reminder that even the closest of partners can have secrets, and that trust, once broken, is difficult to repair. In the world of intelligence, where shadows are deep and loyalties are tested, the stakes are always high. And sometimes the most dangerous operations are the ones that never should have been attempted. In the end, the story of the CIA's operation in Israel is not just a tale of spies and secrets. It's a cautionary tale about the cost of overreach and the fragility of trust in a world where nothing is as it seems.